Hello and welcome to day 4 of my craft room clear out using my stamp sets one last time before I say goodbye. I'm Sarah Jane from Cards and a Cuppa, and I realised recently that I had a lot of stamp sets that I haven't used for a very long time, and it was time to purge some. So I decided that I needed to use them all one more time before I get rid of them. So today I'm using the Oh So Eclectic stamp set, and it's got matching dies. And I mean, I was doing so well before I went to Spain, and I recorded the videos and I made the card, and then I realized that my microphone ran out of battery, so I'm going to make it again. And so we get to make this card twice. So I hope you're looking forward to it, and let's get started. So I'm starting with a lovely lipstick card base, and I'm going to do the watercolor background. This card was inspired by one that is on my YouTube channel. I'll pop a picture up here now for you to see. And so it was one I made before, but it was really popular and I really did like it. So I thought we'll recreate it today for another video. And so I've got this water brush, and so I'm going to do the background. So what I need to do is get the die out and then roughly see what size area I need to cover. So it doesn't have to be straight or anything, because we're just colouring in the right amount of background. So I'm going to get that wet to start with. So squeeze the brush to get some of the water out. And then I've got Flirty Flamingo, Melon Mambo and Lovely Lipstick as a colour combination. So I'm going to start with the lightest, which is Flirty Flamingo, and you can see that there is some ink pooled in the bottom of the ink pad. If there isn't, then just close it and squeeze it at the bottom, and then some of the ink will come out the pad. These new pads are so stiff though. Okay, and then just pick up some with your water brush and add some colour to it. And I think we'll go with Melon Mambo next. Just going to get a piece of kitchen roll to clean the water brush off in between colours. Now the paper I'm colouring onto is watercolour paper. I have got some nice watercolour paper, but this is also just average watercolour paper. I think I got this in Flying Tiger, actually, when they had that as one of their selection of purchases that you could get. So for things like this especially, you don't necessarily need expensive fancy paper. Obviously whatever you've got to hand. Even Thick Whisper White works as well, or Stampin' Up shimmer card, if they still sell that works really well, but you can't add as much water to it. So if you find that it's not spreading enough, then you are a little bit limited to how much water you can add to the card. And so for the video, and to hasten this up, I'm going to dry this with my heat tool. And so obviously you can leave that to dry. If you do it with the heat tool, then it will buckle a little bit, so you can tape that to a board if you want to, or leave it to dry naturally also, but it's fine for a little background like this. So that's big enough to fit behind the cutout that I'm going to do. So I'll just pop that to one side. The white layer on the white layer on the top of this card is going to be, I'm going to want to leave a small border of lovely lipstick and then add a white layer. And so the measurements for that are going to be 10 centimeters by 14.3. So make sure you cut it the right way, Sarah Jane. 14.3 by 10 centimeters long along the length. And that should give you a nice little border all the way around, like so. And so I'm going to die cut the panel. From this white card. This is thick whisper white, by the way. Don't know if I said that. So I'll die cut that out. I am going to use some of my post-it note tape on a roll. You can use a post-it note, but there's only a tiny bit of sticky on them. These I find really handy because it just stops your die slipping when it goes through the machine. And so that's all die cut out. Only a couple of little bits to pop out at the end. And now what we need to do is position this watercolour wash behind the die cut area, behind the die cut area, and then roughly cut that out. And then you're going to add your glue to the white card, so all the way around the edge. And then just on the centre largest sections, just a tiny little dot, because you don't want any glue seeping out if you can help it. You can use your glue eraser, but just makes it easier if you don't have to. And then add your watercolour background. Give that a moment for the glue to dry. And then we're going to stamp a little sentiment. I'm going to basically recreate this card, so I'm not going to change it too much. Maybe I'll change the sentiment. Let's do hello friend. And so you can see on the back of this stamp, because it's quite small, what I did was put a line for the bottom and an arrow for the top, so that I knew when I was stamping it which way up it went, basically. It's a handy little way of knowing that. And so I'm going to stamp it in lovely lipstick again. I find it best to stand up for this and just double check it's straight with the bottom. Okay, so slightly to one side. Oh, well, that didn't come out very well, did it? So what I'm going to have to do is stamp that onto white card and then cut it out. Maybe I'll do that with a little circle punch. And so this is the 1 1/8 circle punch. scallop circle punch. I'm just going to punch that out. So position it into the punch and then squeeze it just gently, just so it holds in place, and then punch it out. Oh, and then we can have a nice straight sentiment. Now, next I'm going to make the flower. I am just going to use one of these offcuts of watercolour paper, and to watercolour this image I'm going to use black stays on. And this little line image. And I'm going to use the same 3 pinks with my watercolour brush to colour in this flower. If you can't squeeze the ink pads very well, you can always just add a bit of ink to a clear block or an old CD case or something, just so that you can pick up the ink out of the ink pads. Of course, you can buy re-inkers if you prefer to do that, but if you've already got the ink pad, then you don't have to. And then I'm going to use a bit of old olive to colour the stem in. And in the Eclectic Layers Thinlits, there is the matching die to cut out this flower. And the post-it note tape doesn't stick to the image at all. So you've never got any worries about that when you finish cutting it out. So what we'll do is pop the sentiment on next. I'm going to use dimensionals for that, seeing as I've had to punch it out anyway. I'm going to use the pink twine. I'm going to hang it over the edge, maybe 2 or 3 inches of the card, just about 8 centimeters. Wrap it around twice. Don't worry about crossing it over just yet. Tie it once in a knot, then tuck it under. And then tie another knot. And then fiddle about with where the cotton sits. So, tie it in a bow. I realise that's tucked under, but that'll cut away in a second, so it won't matter. Tie that in a bow. Trim the end off. That gets rid of that. Trim this end off. Not much fine for balance, not much bigger than the loops of the bow. Seems to work, and then you can always move it along, which I'm going to do. So just bend the card a little and then it just slides along easily. And then I'm going to tuck the flower under here. So I'm going to put a dimension at the top. And then use my fine tip glue pen to glue under the stem. And then I can see now the stem is there, that it needs to just move just slightly so that the bow knot sits on the stem. And just a little dab of glue to hold this bow in place. So I did use these glitter enamel dots, but when I went to use them the other day, I realised that the glue backing had now come off. They've been there for quite a few years now. So what I'm going to do is just pop them on using that fine tip glue pen again. So I'll just position them first. There, like that. Oh, that one seems to have stuck. Okay. Take that off. Move that. Oh yeah, this one's working, look. See the glitter coming out. Oh. Yep, definitely working. Clear ones. You do need to be careful to clean it. Clean your ink pad to get the glitter out of it before you use it for anything else. Okay, so all that is left to do is to stick this onto our lovely lipstick card base, and that'll be that card made today. Okay, so that completes day 4 of my craft room clear out series. Today we've used Oh So Eclectic to make these 2 lovely cards. Don't forget to subscribe to my Facebook and YouTube channels, and then you'll be able to see what I make with all the other stamp sets that I've got in my craft room. Thanks for watching today.